By listening to the previous lessons, I hope you got a better understanding on what is programming language and how you can use programming language to complete your task or to solve problems. In this course, we are intended to use Python as a programming language. Therefore, we need to get started with using Python. In this lesson, we will be covering how to set up your Python programming environment in your local, how you can set up your Python libraries, how you can use Python terminal and Jupyter notebook in your local computer. That will cover the first part of this lesson. In the second and third part, separately, you will be covering how we can use Google Colab, which is a cloud-based service, and then how to install Visual Studio Code as an IDE. Also, you can use it as a notebook environment or by creating Python scripts. Let's get started with those topics, and gradually you will be building your knowledge on getting familiar with Python environment and how you can code with Python. Python as a programming language existed for several decades, actually 3. It is offered as free and open source all the time. It's a multi-purpose programming language. It's easy to learn, set up, and use. That is what you benefit the most if you are a beginner programmer. Or if you already know some programming language, you can easily transfer your knowledge from another programming language like C, Java, or any other programming language you learn into Python. I also got benefited as a student when I'm learning Python. I first learned Java, C, C++, and then I transferred that knowledge into Python, and my previous knowledge was very helpful for me. But don't worry, if Python is your first programming language you're going to learn, still you will be covered. Python is a high-level programming language. Most of the scripts are intuitive. You can read the script and understand what is going to happen in the script and what are the instructions we provided to the computer via those scripts. Most of them are written in plain English, so you have like less codes and you have less ununderstandable words in the code. So you will see what I'm talking about this in the coming slides. Python support programming object-oriented and procedural programming paradigms both. That will be very beneficial for those who wanted to learn Python as an object-oriented programming language to use in your work, and also those who wanted to use it as a procedural programming language. You have a choice too. Python has a huge collection of standard libraries with community support, with a nice set of documentation which will be very helpful for the beginners to learn, and also the experienced programmers who wanted to learn certain things while they are working on projects. There are many tutorials, documentation, help, and some blogs, and there are some groups discussing about the issues in Python. Since it is a free and open source, it's a community-driven effort to uplift the Python programming language. Python programming language is maintained by Python Software Foundation. It's an organization devoted to advancing open source technology related to Python programming language. It supports the Python core programming language as well as some libraries around it. There are other foundations supporting Python libraries like scikit-learn, pandas, like several libraries we will be discussing in this course will be supported through several non-profit organizations or foundations for free and open source software. Uses of Python programming language are very diverse. You can use it for web development, GUI development, scientific and numeric computing, software development, systems administration, data science work, and machine learning, so which will be targeted most of this course. Python can also use for web scraping for data mining from web pages. It can also be used for text analytics. And for multimedia purpose, you can use Python. You can automate certain tasks in Python as well. There are many uses in Python. You can apply Python in your environment, so in your work and your research or your education. Like I said, there are plenty of libraries available. We will get to know some of these libraries in this course. You will get benefited if you start using Python, and if you start applying those in your at work actively while you are learning, you will be benefited the most. Before we do anything, we first need to install Python in local computer if you are intended to use Python in your local environment. If you don't want to install Python in your local environment, there are other choices as well. We will be discussing one of them, which is Google Colab. If you are working on a cloud-based platforms like Microsoft Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud, or any other cloud platform, most of the cloud platforms nowadays support Python coding. So therefore, learning Python will be very beneficial if you are working on a project which is using cloud platforms and also you wanted to do some coding. So let's discuss first how we can install Python in local computer. Like I mentioned earlier, Python is supported and maintained by Python Software Foundation. You can download the latest Python version from python.org. If you go to this link appear on the screen, you can download the latest Python version. Depending on the operating system, you can download the installer. It's supported the Mac OS, Windows, or Linux. You can install pretty much every computer in that way. So that contains the base Python interpreter and some basic Python libraries. It does not contain other libraries we require to install and use in our course, such as NumPy, Pandas. You have to install them separately if you download the Python distribution from python.org. To avoid that situation, if you want to download all in one package, you can go to a distribution like Anaconda Python distribution, which is heavily used in industry as well as in academics. You can simply go to anaconda.com and you can download the free version of it, available for free of charge. If you are not using for commercial purpose, you can use it for free of charge, and you have to get the individual version of it. It also supports Mac OS, Windows, and Linux, all three platforms. For your information, I will demonstrate how we can install Python using both python.org and Anaconda. To install Python from python.org, first you need to go to the website python.org. You can do a Google search or you can directly type the URL in your web browser. You can click download Python in the Google search, or if you go to the Python URL, you will find a download link. You can click on that link and download the latest Python version installer. You can see multiple different versions of Python. The latest one is 3.10. You can find 3.9, 3.8, 3.7. Python 2.7 is no longer supported. Therefore, I would not recommend you to use Python 2. If you are using Windows, you can download the Windows installer. If you are using Linux or Mac operating system, you can also download the respective installer. First, you need to save the installer into your local environment. Once you save the installer into your drive, you can start installer by clicking on the installer exe file. If you are using Windows, if you are using Linux or Mac OS, you have to follow the documentation. You have to choose options in the installer. You can choose which version of based on the version you will given different types of installation options. You can install Python across all users or in your computer. You can also add Python to your path variable. Once you satisfied all the options, you can hit install now. Installing Python from Anaconda. Same way you did the Python installation from python.org, you can search Anaconda Python distribution in a Google search, or you can type the anaconda.com in your web browser and go to Anaconda web page. There you will find the download option for the operating system you are using. For Windows, you can download the Windows version of the installer. For Linux or Mac OS, you can download the respective version as well. In the Anaconda web page, you will see multiple multiple products they provide for Python related development environments. So Anaconda distribution is what we will be using. It's freely available for individual use. You can hit the download button and download the installer to your disk. After it downloaded, you can click on the installer and then start installing the Anaconda distribution. When you start Anaconda distribution, you will guide it through a wizard. You can provide like configuration options. You can install just for yourself, or you can install for all users of your computer. You can specify the path you can install the distribution. One thing here you need to be warned here. So you can add Anaconda to your path variable, or if you can choose not to. If you add to path variable, if you type Python in the command prompt, it will be taken your Anaconda distribution as the default Python distribution in your computer. So once the installer completes the installation, you are ready to use Anaconda Python distribution. You can click next after the installation finished. To test your Python installation, if you install Python from python.org, you can test your Python exe file by double-clicking on the Python exe on the path you install Python. If you open the Python exe, it will show a command line window like you see on the top part of the screen. You can type simple Python command as a print statement. You can say print hello universe. It will print whatever you ask to print in the print statement. You can type simple commands like addition, subtraction, like one-line Python code and execute in this prompt. But this prompt will not be suitable for complex Python coding and Python operations. We will be exploring more options you can do that task. If you install Anaconda Python, you can start Anaconda Python prompt by searching Anaconda Python prompt in the Windows search bar, or any in the operating system you use. You can start Anaconda Python prompt. If you do that, you will see a prompt. You can type in any DOS command, or you can type Python commands like you can say Python and then execute Python scripts. We will explore how we can use Anaconda prompt in the coming lessons. In Anaconda Python console, you can type IPython in the command prompt. It will start interactive Python environment or IPython environment. In IPython environment, you can type Python commands and Python statements and also execute Python scripts. We will explore this in a demonstration. Next. This demonstration will show you how to execute Python script in Anaconda prompt. First, you need to open Anaconda prompt by searching the Anaconda prompt in Windows. I assume you are using Windows here. If you are using Linux or Mac OS, you have to find ways how you can start Anaconda prompt in your operating system. Next, we will look into the demonstration. This demonstration will walk you through simple steps of executing Python commands, and then you will see how you can see the output in interactive Python environment. Once you open Anaconda prompt, you will see a command prompt. You can enter operating system commands. If you are in Windows, you can type DOS commands like dir. If you are in Linux or Unix, you can type shell commands here. So let's try to explore something special come with Python. So Python has interactive Python environment which called IPython. You can execute IPython as a command in the Python in this prompt, and it will open IPython or interactive Python environment for you. There you can type Python commands and execute those commands in this prompt. So this demonstration, I would show you like how to add two numbers and how you can execute that task in IPython. Let's do like a simple one. So let's say 1 plus 2 and hit enter. So we'll see the output in the next line as 3. Let's try to create a variable. Let's try to create a variable. Say A is 2 and B is 3. Then we wanted to get the result. Let's see what is A plus B now. A plus B will give you 5. This IPython prompt will help you to execute Python commands in command line interface, and also it can work as a Jupyter notebook environment. You can type your command and then you can see the output on the same screen, and it will display as the output immediately after you execute the command. If you want to run a Python script from IPython command prompt, what you need to do is you have to say run and then give the script name. I had 2 scripts in this folder named my script, so I'm going to run this. This my script will simply print hello universe as the output. We will get to know how to construct this script in the next video. It is not convenient to write Python command on the Python command prompt every time we wanted to run something and get output. It is convenient to put all your commands in a script file and save it in your disk, and then when you need to run those commands together, you can execute that Python script. In Python, we use .py as the extension for Python script. To write Python script, you can use a standard IDE or simple Notepad editor. Here I'm going to use Notepad++. You can also use Notepad, comes with the Windows operating system. Later in these lessons, we will explore a standard text editor, Visual Studio Code, as well as we will explore how you can put your code together in a notebook using Jupyter Notebook, and as well as Google Colab, which is a cloud-based service. This demonstration will show you how you can type a Python command in a Notepad document, and then how you can save it as a Python script. To complete this exercise, I assume you have installed Anaconda Python distribution. If you install Anaconda Python distribution, you can open Anaconda prompt, and also you can open Notepad++ if you have Notepad++ installed in your computer. If not, you can also use regular Notepad software tool installed with Windows operating system. I prefer to use Notepad++ because it provides you features of a nice code editor. You can see the line numbers appear, and also you can choose the language you prefer. Here I can choose Python as my language. It will provide features such as code highlighting. Our goal here is to write a Python script and save it on the disk, and then execute through the command prompt. What we wanted to see in the Python script, what we were trying to do here. So let's try to print something on screen as our first script. To print something, we can provide the print command in Python, which is a function print. I wanted to say hello universe. Once we execute this script, it will print hello universe on screen. First of all, we need to save the script before we are executing. So let's try to save it as a .py file. .py is the extension we use for Python scripts. I would say this file name is my script.py. Then simply save it. Now we can go to the command prompt and try to see what are the files in that directory. This is a newly created directory. I'm on Windows operating system. When I hit enter with the dir command, I would see my script.py is now properly saved on this folder. To execute this script file, what we need to do is we need to type Python as the command for the interpreter and then give the file name. So I would copy my script.py file name by selecting and right clicking on Windows and then right clicking again to paste. You can also type this command. Now I'm trying to execute this. Okay, we got the print output as we expected from the first script we created. Great. So let's do something more complex than this. Next, let's try to write a program to calculate an area of a rectangle. We all know the formula how to calculate area of a rectangle. What we need to calculate area of a rectangle, we need width. So let's assign width as 2 and height don't worry about the CRLF. So this is carriage written and line feeder to indicate there's a line break. I can stop that from displaying. I can say show symbols and remove show all characters. So now the display is more clear. Okay, let's focus on the code. So we provide width and height of the rectangle. So now we can calculate area as width times, this is the multiplication operator in Python, height. Okay, now we calculated area width times height. Now we wanted to display the value. So now we want to display print area. So this is our Python script. I'm going to save this script as my second script. I'm going to copy the file name because I can copy paste into the command prompt when I'm trying to execute this. So I'm saving this as my second script.py. Okay, we saved our file. Now let's go back to the command prompt and type Python and the script name. Okay, so what we were expected to get is width times height is 6. So that is the area of the rectangle. We wanted to get the expected value is 6. We got the value as expected. So our program worked. So this is the simplest program I can write to demonstrate you how to run a Python script from the command prompt. We will explore more computer programming exercises with both Python scripts as well as Jupyter Notebook in the coming lessons. Python scripts are convenient to put together a complex code and then execute a script at once. But if you wanted to show output while you are executing your script part by part, especially if you are studying, if you are teaching, or if you are presenting your results in your step-by-step data analysis work, Notebook will be very helpful. In a later lesson, you will explore how you can use Notebook and what are the components of the Notebook and much detail about the Jupyter Notebook environment. But here, I'm going to demonstrate how you can use Jupyter Notebook to type simple Python command and then get the output. To do that, you first need to start the Jupyter Notebook by searching in Windows. If you are using other operating system, make sure you find the command or the icon you need to click on to start the Jupyter Notebook environment. The demonstration will be guiding you through this process. Once you get the Jupyter Notebook environment loaded to your computer, you will see different items in the Notebook environment. Notebook is basically a web page. You will see different types of cells. You can type your Python commands in your code cell. You can make your notebook prettier and organized, guide your user who is reading this notebook using markdown cells or text cell we can call. The other components we will explore in this demonstration. To begin working with Jupyter Notebook, you first need to Start Jupyter Notebook environment installed with Anaconda distribution. You can either find the Jupyter Notebook icon in your desktop. If not, you can search it on the Windows search option. Once you click on the icon, the Jupyter Notebook will open it for you as a web page in your default web browser. It will open a folder for you, which is set as your default folder. If you have previously created Python files or notebook files, it will display as you see on my screen right now. Here I had 2 Python scripts we created earlier. To start using Jupyter Notebook, let's create a new notebook. Here I am creating a notebook with Python 3. It will open a new browser window with a blank Jupyter Notebook. Automatically save into the disk. You don't need to save it by yourself. While you are working on the notebook, you can still hit the save button, or you can save file, save as, or you can save and checkpoint. Let's explore the notebook and the menus. So you have, as we open, you have a file menu. You can open a new notebook. You can also open a notebook already on the disk, and you can make a copy of this existing notebook. You can save as this notebook into a different location. You can rename this notebook. You can also do things like you can download this notebook as a different file format, including .py file. Notebooks can be converted into .py file. You don't need to keep them as a notebook. If you wanted to execute as a script, you can download your notebook as a .py file. You can also print your notebook into a PDF document. In edit menu, you will have different types of cells. In different types of operations you can do on cell. You can cut cells, copy cells, delete cells. We will explore what is cells in a short while. And then view menu, you can have the toggle. You can have a header, or you can toggle toolbars. If you want to switch off the toolbar to make your display maximized, you can hide that. If you want to toggle header, you can hide that. So here it is already being hidden. So since I enable it, you will see the Jupyter icon and your notebook name will be displayed. If you want to change your notebook name, you can change it. You can say my notebook, and then you can hit rename. It will rename and save into the disk as well. If you want to explicitly save, you can hit the save button. In the insert menu, you can insert a new cell above or below. You can also do that using the menus. If you wanted to get a new cell here, you can say insert. If you want to remove a cell up and down, you can use these arrows. Let's talk about the cells first. So in the cell highlighted in green here, it's called code cell. In Jupyter Notebook, you have 4 different types of cells. One is code, markdown, pro NB convert, and then heading. I'm going to talk about these last 2, but the first 2 are very important for us in our work. Code cells, you can type Python commands or Python statements and execute. Markdown cells can be useful to type HTML or markdown scripts to render content to make your notebook prettier and organized. You can run cells by clicking run cells. You can select number of cells you want to run, and you can hit run cells. And you can see many options here. You can run all, run above, run below. Run means you are executing the code within a cell. You can also change cell type between code, markdown, and raw notebook convert. You can see the current output, whether you executed it previously. You can turn it on and off, the output of the previous execution. In the kernel menu, you can interrupt the existing kernel running, means you are stopping the current execution. If you can restart the current kernel, so the kernel means the Python interpreter connected with this notebook. So you can restart if you think your kernel is messed up, or if something is getting slower, you can always restart your kernel. When you restart, you can restart clearing all the previous output you generated by executing the code cells. You can also restart and run everything. If you have multiple cells in your notebook, you can let the kernel restart and run everything. You can reconnect if you have a kernel already running and you disconnected for some reason. This is happens especially if you are working in a network environment. You can reconnect. If you don't want to use the kernel, you need to release the resources occupied by the kernel. You can hit shutdown. If you want to change the kernel, either you have multiple programming languages or you have like multiple Python distributions installed in your operating system, you can say change kernel. The help is also providing you a like nice set of options for you to get help while using Jupyter Notebook environment. All right, so let's try to explore the code cell. Let's type our first command for the execution. So let's do the same thing like we did for the script .py script we did earlier. Here we wanted to print something first. So let's say print hello universe. Same thing we did before. And then we have options to execute this code cell. The first option is to hit run while you make the code cell active. If you hit run, it will execute. Other option is press shift and enter. I'll hit run for this time and see the execution result. You will see the execution result right underneath the code cell you executed. This is a like very good benefit in the Jupyter Notebook because you can immediately see the output of each and every code cell. Not only text output, you can see in visual output. If you are plotting something, you can also see the plot output rendered underneath the code cell in this web browser. We will explore these things in the coming lessons. So now let's look at a markdown cell. So we have to convert this code cell, which is selected as a code cell by default, into markdown cell. Let's type our markdown cell. Here you can type markdown scripting or the HTML to render a text in a style format. So I'm going to use markdown format. So I'm going to create a header 1 markdown, say welcome to Python. To render this markdown script, so what you need to do is you can hit either run or shift enter, like you execute a code cell, but it will not execute anything but render the script as a nice HTML output. You can double click on the markdown cell. If you want to edit it again, you can do a bulleted list or list item. So list item, another list item. You can hit shift enter. You can create list, you can embed images, you can have like styled fonts, different colors, different font styles, different fonts. Even you can embed LaTeX mathematical equations into this notebook. That makes the notebook is well organized. You can make your notebook presentable to an audience, like you present a PowerPoint slideshow. With the code execution will be added benefit to your presentation. Okay, so let's do something more into the coding part. So let's try to execute something different. So this time I wanted to add two numbers. So first I will create a number variable that I will say a equals 5, and then I will create another number variable, say b equals 2, and now I want to add them together, and I wanted to create a new variable, say c is a plus b, and then I wanted to print the result, print c. You see, when I execute this time, I press shift and enter. So a is 5 assigned, b is 2, and c is a plus b is 7. As expected, we got the print output as 7. This is the simple demonstration for how you can use Jupyter Notebook. We learned many things: how you can create a notebook, how you can rename, how you can create a code cell, how you can do the markdown, how you can execute Python scripts, as well as how you can play with the kernel. If you want to restart the kernel now, you can say restart. It will restart the kernel for you If you want to say restart and clear output, let's demonstrate that option. It will clear all the output you created right below the code says. So let's hit that. It will ask whether you wanted to restart to make sure you really wanted to do that. Say restart. Now you will see it will restart the kernel and clear all the outputs we generated previously. Being in an open source community, Python libraries are rich and diversified in terms of application areas and the standards. So you can find libraries for many different users in the Python ecosystem. For data handling, you have libraries like Pandas, Dask, and many other standard libraries used and approved by many industries. For machine learning, there are plenty of libraries for traditional machine learning as well as deep learning. Data visualization, MATLAB, Seaborn, Plotly, and many other libraries are available to you. You can create industry standard dashboards using those libraries. For numerical and scientific computing, SciPy, NumPy, and many other libraries supporting those high-performance computing. Machine learning and model interpretation. You can find libraries such as Lime, SHAP, and many other libraries supporting fairness in machine learning, as well as to interpret your models to make your machine learning models more transparent. There are libraries for image processing, libraries for building web services, libraries for web scraping, and many other users of Python. You can find libraries you need. When you start working with Python, you may require to install additional libraries than what you already have installed with your distribution. If you use a Python installer from python.org, you can install additional libraries using pip package manager. If you are using Conda, or if you have Anaconda Python distribution, you can use Conda package manager and pip package manager both. However, if you install Anaconda distribution, you have most of the libraries required for you to complete this course, as well as your data science and machine learning work or scientific computing work as well. But if you install the Python distribution from python.org, you don't have like all the libraries. You need to start installing libraries such as Pandas, Matplotlib, and NumPy. And if you want to do some machine learning, you need to install scikit-learn, TensorFlow, and those libraries you need to install all of them using the pip package manager. So let's explore how you can do that in the next slide. If you use a pip package manager for Python, it's very easy to install a library using the command highlighted in red. You have to say pip install and the package name you want to install. You can find the package name from package repository, or you can search from the pip website, pip package management website. For example, if you want to install NumPy, you can say pip install NumPy. To Pandas, pip install Pandas. If you are installing from Windows, you can say python -m pip install numpy if your Python interpreter is not registered as the default Python interpreter for your operating system. If you are using Anaconda prompt, you can simply say pip install the package name. When you are using Conda's package manager, the command is conda install -c. You can select the package repository Conda Forge and then the package name. If you want to install NumPy, conda install -c conda forge NumPy. To Pandas, conda install -c conda forge Pandas. You can install any package available in both of these repositories. Normally, the standard packages are available in both the repositories. Similar to any other software tool, Python libraries also need to update. When a new update released, you can update your installation of libraries. if you want to use pip package manager to update your existing Python library already installed, you can say pip install upgrade and then package name. You can using the dash upgrade enable the switch to upgrade the package. If the updates are available, it will update the package for you. If you use Conda's package manager, you can simply do this by giving the command conda update and the package name. If the new package update is available in Conda package manager, it will update the package for you. Sometimes you need to get rid of a library installed in your Python distribution. If you use pip package manager, you can simply say pip uninstall and the package name. It will uninstall the package for you. If you use Conda's package manager, you can simply say conda remove the package name. You can get rid of these libraries from your distribution to resolve some conflicting issues with the libraries. This can happen in Python. When you are working, you will realize how it is possible, but some of the libraries will provide you guidance which packages need to remove, which packages you need to keep. Some packages, when they are installed, they will take care of the dependencies by itself. There are other options such as creating virtual environments to remove these conflicting situations for packages. You don't need to install, update, remove whenever you need to install a new package into your environment. So we will explore these options in an advanced course later time. In this lesson, you learn how to install Python in your local computer and how to install libraries required for you to work with Python. And also, we briefly explored how you can use Python command prompt and IPython interpreter, as well as Jupyter Notebook environment to start coding with Python. Next, we will explore Google Colab to use as a Jupyter Notebook environment provided by Google research team for free to use as a cloud platform. So we will explore how to use Google Colab in the next lesson. See you there.